All right, David, we're back. We've got a couple great guests. I'm going to let you do the introduction, Mr. Robert Lyon and Miss Jennifer Brazier. And thank you so much for being on the show with us today. And David, down in Brazil, we're all envious. So go ahead, brother.
Yeah, yeah, here we are again. It's another day. They keep melting together. It's great though. We're moving along. Today's show is a real special opportunity for me, is related to Robert specifically, and Robert Lyon and his work that he does with filmmaking, and he can get into that. But just like many of the other people that I've introduced to this podcast now, I think this is like the 18th episode or so. So maybe 15 people or so. Everyone's similar to Robert. They didn't know me for one day, and I'm calling up out of the blue, and I'm kind of like this crazy guy with these crazy ideas. So, what's the nice part is that somebody like Robert and also Jennifer, when she mentions the things and how she's connected with Robert, when people trust, it goes a long way. Yeah. And if we don't do anything to break that bond and that trust, it gets interesting, really, because the things that we're doing today in every moment are divine. But it takes time in working together like Robert. I think it's like 4 years or so. So and I'm sure that and I'm not going to speak for Robert what his opinion is, or maybe he can even mention some of the kind of the questioning, doubts, fears, or whatever. I don't know, because all I know is we are here today, and Robert and Jennifer both made a movie. I believe it's like a document. They can explain how it's actually, because it's pretty creative how they're launching for their marketing campaign of this movie called uh, Past but Present. And so I'm not going to get into all of that, but the reason why this is so timely is because, as we've been talking about since the beginning of this month, actually even last month, this festival coming up, the Hibernation Festival, in 8 days, 24/7 of recording content, doesn't have to be physically here. I can man like this side, like have like a studio and bring real live people into the mix for 8 days. And that's where, Robert's work would come in, because we could do like a private screening or some, depending on how they would like Jennifer and Robert want to, if they want to get involved or not. I don't know. That's really the purpose and meaning of today, is to get to some closure, because I know that Robert, just like we got other things that we could be doing. But if we're going to work together, that's wonderful. Let's all celebrate today. So, anyways, without any further ado, I'll let Robert go ahead and chime in and kind of guide things as an executive producer right now. I'm here to answer questions and kind of just help guide things. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Robert. Thank you.
Thanks for the introduction, David. Hi, Sean. So yes, me and Jennifer Brazier are doing a TV show. It's a series. It's actually 6 episodes for season one, and we are planning season two already. And what we do is Jennifer Brazier is an evidential medium, and I'll let her explain more on that in a second. But as a medium, I take her to different locations around the country, hopefully around the world in season two. But we go to locations that she's not aware of where she's going. For example, our first episode, I said, book a flight to Denver, and we're going to drive you into the middle of nowhere. You're not going to know where we're going. And we did just that. We drove 3 hours in the nighttime up into the Rocky Mountains to a place that I had researched previously. I wanted to find interesting kind of ghost towns, and I found one called St. Elmo in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. And I did my research on it, and it was a gold mining a boom town in the 1800s. And so we basically blindfold Jennifer before she gets to the location, so she knows nothing about it, has no opportunity to research it ahead of time. And what she does with her mediumship is reads the land and gets messages from spirit world that actually tell the history and the story to her. And I film it, and I film it in real time. There's no, clever editing of it. What you see is what happened. and she'll say, I've got a person here, and his name is, you know, Sam, and he's got red hair, and he's telling me that he was a miner in the shafts, and she at this point she doesn't even know she's in a mining town yet. So Jennifer is getting all this information, and then what we do is uh, we confirm all that through historical articles and local guides, anybody that can give us the true story. So we did Colorado, and then we went to a couple other great towns like St. Augustine and New Orleans, and it's basically like an adventure program, but through mediumship and spirituality. So, and I'll introduce Jennifer so you can kind of explain what an evidential medium is.
Well, first off, thank you, Robert and Sean and David. And I was excited to be a part of this today, not knowing anything. But I have to tell you, as soon as I see Sean, your background there with all your crystals, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to sit with you. And then David, I don't know, David the Indian. I mean, my goodness, just seeing where he's at just makes me want to go walk with him for a little bit and just listen to what he has to say. But Robert's correct. Past but present. It started out so organic, you guys. It was simply some friends getting together that had met at a conference in the last year, and we all had a common interest. It's the spirit world, understanding a little bit more about what happens to us when we're no longer here in the physical. And as a medium, I love this stuff. It is what I do. It's who I am. It's my purpose. It's why I chose to come to this physical earth so that I could be a part of explaining a little bit more about what happens to us and where we go and the imprints that we leave on this physical earth. So in this meeting, and I'll be brief about this because it's quite a story. It's a story that the synchronicities and the symbolization that was given to us prior to us even meeting this weekend. And this weekend really was going to be a girls' weekend. And Robert came up because he needed to film a couple of the ladies that were there. And I would just happen to be hanging there. Well, I think I was going to be filmed too, now that I think about it.
For
But
a whole different
anyway,
project. Yeah.
I could regress a little bit and start telling about that story. So keep me on task here, Sean.
We can easily go over an hour if we need to. So you can spill all the stories you want. This is I love it.
Well, thank you. Um, so the ladies were doing something, and Robert and I had a little bit of time, and so I got this sense to just say to him, "Do you want to go outside? Would you like a reading?" And I don't spontaneously do that. That's part of my ethics and my integrity and my responsibility with the spirit world is I don't just come and tell you things. It has to be, it has, the parties have to all be, I mean, I use the word aligned. We have to be in a place that we're open to receive. If not, this isn't going to work. So we stepped outside and let me stop for a second. I'm going to regress for just a second. The conference that we met at, I was a speaker there, and Robert was there filming, and that's a complete story in itself. But as we were in the, what do they call it, the mingle part of it, we're getting to meet people. And I felt this, I felt like everybody in the room went blank. There was nobody else in the room but me. And I could see Robert as he walked in the door, and he was with a woman, which is now his wife, which is one of my good friends. And as they walked in, I felt like I had to go up to him and I had to warn him. I had to tell him. I literally had to communicate with him that I felt something that was so strong. And I walked up to him and I said, "Are you ready?" That's all I said. 3 words, "Are you ready?" And those 3 words are the name of our production company, number one. But also, that started a conversation, which I had no idea what that meant. Jennifer didn't know. I know on a different level, I did understand it. And then we met again at another conference and we walked up. And at this point, I was very aggressive with him about, "Are you ready? I mean, this is about to happen. Are you ready?" And neither one of us kind of grasped it. So that was the beginning of this. And I'm sure at that point, he could give his feelings about this woman that he doesn't know coming up and touching him and telling him, "Are you ready?" Am I
Shaking,
exaggerating, Robert, at all?
yeah, you're shaking me by the shoulders and yelling at me.
I
Were
was.
you really? Were you really?
I was trying to.
Wow, that really came through strong. Like you, Jennifer, that like really came through so strong that you literally came up and like put your hand. That's amazing. That's really a great story.
Yeah, it was one of those moments that you feel like you're trying to tell your child something and they're not listening and you've got to shake them. That's how I felt, that I
Needed
needed to
that
let this
attention.
child know, are you ready? You got to get ready. So that was the beginning of our friendship, I want to call it. And so fast forward, we are, and I'll be brief about this because I know Sean, there's more to, I want to talk about this, the film itself more than this one piece, but it's so intricate of
I
how
think
the spirit world will
it's a good lead
move.
into everything. I think it's a good lead in. So feel free to,
Thank
take it
you.
wherever you want to go. Because I love this. I think this is a great prelude to getting to this stuff. So the more of this that we get into, feel free. But it's your show here. So whatever you feel comfortable
Thank
with.
you. That's kind. Thank you. So now I'm back in this place that it's girls' weekend, these three ladies I'm with, that I'm also just meeting them too. I really don't know too much about them other than I knew I needed to be with them. And there is something that I have learned the older I get that I have to trust. And the trust is stronger than what I will call law or what I know is policy or guidelines or even what people say. It's like this, and the trust that will come over me, the feeling that I get that I can't question it. I have to trust it. And I knew this heaviness, in the heaviness, it's positive. It's not awkward or ugly or selfish. It's no fear related feeling. But I knew that these ladies, I was going to fly across where I live to go meet them for this weekend, knowing that it was going to bud a friendship, I really felt. But also, I had no idea Robert was going to be there. It was something that one of the ladies had said, oh, Robert's going to show up. He needs to do something for another person. Her name is Sonia Rinaldi. She's from Brazil. She's a phenomenal woman. And Robert also did a film on her. And you want to just speak a minute on Rinaldi now that I just
Mhm.
thinking of Sonia?
Yeah, my first documentary is called Rinaldi, Instrumental Transcommunication to the Other Side, and it's about Brazilian researcher Sonia Rinaldi who uses instruments, technological devices to communicate with spirit through cameras and recorders, like white noise, like EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon, and an ITC, instrumental transcommunication. And I was working on that film, which I met her as well at this original conference that I met Jennifer at. So the stars aligned and we all ended up at the same place because I wanted to film some interviews for Rinaldi, and Jen was there. And that's and a side note, when we arrived at the property, because one of the ladies I was interviewing had a property that she was kind of a caretaker for, and it was on a lot of acreage, and at the entrance to the property was a one of those like marquees where people can put words on it, and was on a trailer like an advertisement, and it was a big sign about 4 feet tall and 6 feet wide, and kid you not, it only said three words on that sign. Take a guess what that might have been.
Are
It
you
was, "Are you
ready?
ready?" So what are the odds of that, and it was literally parked right at the entrance to the property where we were all going to meet. And no, they didn't set this up, that's for sure. So that was a pretty cool synchronicity sign that happened. But after I was done with my work interviewing it, then Jennifer, you can take back the story. We were sitting on the porch and she says, um, I'm being drawn to the woods. There's a big expanse of really great trees and woods along, I think it's the St. Lawrence River in Florida. I think that's what it's called. Um, but we go adventuring into the woods. But I said, I got to get my camera first. If I'm going to follow you into the woods, I'm going to record everything that happens. And go ahead, Jen, tell the rest.
So Robert, as we were sitting down and we were going to I was felt this need to do a reading for him. And it was just going to be him and I sitting, and we are in Florida. Like he said, we're up in northern Florida. And they have the screens that you sit inside because where we're at is on this a lake river and there's alligators. We're out in a place that you don't, girl, you don't walk out there not unless you've got sticks or you know where you're at. Okay. So, but I'm getting this absolute physical pull. I need to leave where I'm at and go outside. So Robert and I kind of get up and walk out. And as we walk out, there's a gate that we walk through. And as I walk through the gate, and what I'm going to explain, this is very personal, very emotional to me. And so if I sound like I'm way out there, I don't know how to muffle this or mute what I have to say, but
Not here. No,
I
you're
know,
fully in
but
your comfort zone with us. You're good.
it's sometimes I kind of, I go back and I review this in my mind, or I go back and I think about it, and it's like it was surreal. Was this I felt like it wasn't me, that I literally left my physical body. But as we walked out, I literally felt like my body bent. And as it bent, oh, there's a hand in the air. As I bent, it was like my neck went back and everything slowed very slow for me, like, whoa. And as my head caught up with the rest of my body, I turned back to look at Robert and I was almost watching him physically do the same thing. And then I spoke with him and I said, I think we just went through a vortex. I think we're in a vortex. And then that's when I recall him saying to me, I got to get my camera. I need my camera. If we're going to go anywhere, I need a camera. So he ran back in. Now, I just want to recall or remind everyone that there's two women with us. There's two other ladies with us, two friends. And so I walk in, they're making us a pizza. And so I walk in, and the more you get to know me, I sometimes have zero filter. And I'm like, you guys, something freaking amazing is going on. And Robert's going to film this. If you want to come with us, you need to effing come now. And so the one girl is just like grabbing her shoes and she's running. She's literally running with us because I am like talking in mock, and I see Robert with his camera going out the door. And I just felt like everything was getting fast, 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 fast. And the one girl goes, well, we're cooking a pizza. We have like 8 minutes left. And I'll let everybody decide what I say to her because we're about to have the most incredible adventure of our life. But you want to wait 8 minutes for this pizza. So I left. She does end up joining us. But as we all walk outside, and Robert, I don't really remember if you go first or I'm going first or you're recording. I don't remember any of this other than my own personal leaving the physical house, going out through the gate, and there is this block of woods. And the woods it's almost like where David was standing with all the trees. It's unfamiliar to me of this land. I'm from the West Coast, so this is not the trees that I'm used to. And I know there's alligators, it's swampy. So it's that sort of, you know, landscape. So we walk out, and the one girl that lives there, and she's the caretaker, she's kind of yelling at us, like be careful. There's tripwires everywhere for the deer. Well, okay, I don't know where the tripwires are, but just in my mind, I hear that. So we all kind of go through this vortex again. I see but it's fun. It's like we're giggling like little kids now. So Robert at this time I know he's near me, and we're just about to go into the forest, and I'm greeted by a woman. And I'll just be very brief about this, but she is kind of a very plump, overweight, dark-skinned woman. I'd say she's probably Indian. And she is taking my hand, and her little chubby fingers were so soft in my hand. And when she touched me, she pulled me. And as she pulled me more into the forest, everybody came with me. So we journeyed, Robert, would you say maybe 15, 20 minutes? We are walking through, and I'm explaining, and they're telling me, don't worry, we'll tell you where the wires are. So we stepped over them. We got to this. They brought me to an opening about a quarter of a mile into the forest. And at that point, we were greeted. And this is all filmed of how the spirit world just started sharing to me this. They had prepared us a meal. They had the music was incredible. The children all stood in one area. They were greeting us, and it was as we were honored as these special guests. And it was very, very emotional for me. It was hard for me physically to process in words to these people that are with me what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling. So that was so that kind of started the very beginning of this, because I was given some information about what we would find on what I now call, and I'm going to air quote it, the farm, because it's a location that I still don't quite understand where it's at. But the farm has some exquisite animals that are not native to that area that I was told about. So that is all revealed a little bit in the film that Robert starts picking up. And it started out very organic. And then that evening, we started thinking about how we could make something of this to share that history is still available to us. The legacy of those that walked before us is still there. And if I can be a voice for it using my abilities, and it can be captured by someone with Robert's talent, why can't we let others know that this is available, that we don't, not that I'm putting down, history books or putting down the school books that I was given, but it doesn't do justice to what our ancestors, their stories have to tell. So that started our journey that very warm afternoon in Florida.
And I researched the land. I had no idea that this was a area populated by Indian tribe called the Timucua in the past, and they were all through that area on that property. So none of us knew that. So I found it so fascinating that we were Jen's getting messages from the natives consistently throughout the next 2 days, because we went back out into the woods the next day. And then I researched all this, and there were specific stories too about like the tribal leader his body went missing in the St. Johns River. We were there, and Jen got messages about that, and just specific details that were just amazing to be able to validate that in afterwards. And so we said, this has got to be, yeah, we got to make this into something. And then that was actually we'll call it our pilot episode. So we have that for free. You can watch it on YouTube at Past But Present on YouTube. It's called The Land of the Timucua, and it's a 2-part video that you can literally see what we just talked about on video. And then that led us to create the 6-episode series later, and that was through when we started in Colorado. We had great stories there, St. Augustine and Louisiana, and we did Miami as well, but that's probably going to be in the 2nd season. It didn't make the cut because we have to go back to kind of finalize our storyline on that one. We're not done with that yet, but it's been a fascinating show and a journey in putting it together.
What I love about this is how untraditional it is with anything else that I've ever watched, is even in the raw sense of what is being received is later validated or verified through family members that some of them are still alive. I've spoken with family that this one situation is a man passed in a airplane on some land we were at, and he had messages for his kids that were still alive. And it was so phenomenal to go, are you kidding me? And I know people ask me, how do you feel about this, Jennifer? How do you feel knowing this? And what a gift. Well, you spend more than 10 minutes with me, you realize I don't call this a gift. It's my ability, and I have chosen this. I chose it on a level that I'd like to say that I completely understand, but I don't, because as much as I love this, there's a lot of, people don't believe this. There's some people that think that, they've got strong opinions because of that's how we've been raised. Society, religion. I mean, I could go on and on. But I know on some level, and I see you laughing, Sean, so you probably understand. I wasn't raised in this world, in the world of just trusting. I literally had to step into this and know that there was something so much more magical that I can rely on to help me while I'm here in the physical. And I use the word magical, and I don't mean like magic. I mean just the sense that we all have a purpose and we all have plans and we all have a legacy, no matter how horrific we are on this earth. And that's one of we also explore areas that there are some gritty, grimy people I've met. And underneath that facade of who they became in the physical, at the core level of their soul, it's like they understood what they did. And to hear that part of them or hear that part of it, it'll make a grown man cry because they really are just coping. They're just, we're all just trying to succeed while we're here, and we're all just trying to learn. And to be it captured on film and to go back to these historians or go back to these individuals that this is what they focus on, the librarians. And oh my gosh, we've met some amazing people that this is all they focus on. And when someone like myself and Robert walk in and we're like, can we talk about the hidden tunnels that are underneath your town? And they look at us sideways like, nobody knows about this. Where did you hear this? And I'm like, well, let me explain. And they're like, whoa, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want anyone to know we know about this. So we ran into quite a few different individuals, family members also, that it's like we don't want to upset the what's known. Let's leave it as is.
I'd like to embellish on that story, the tunnels, because we were in a town called Salida, Colorado. It's a old western town, and we were on a street where Jennifer picked up. She was getting messages from prostitutes from 100 and something years ago there, and was connecting with an actual lady that was telling the stories about what went on in these two buildings. And our expert confirmed that these were, where all that went down. But he didn't agree that there was tunnels under. And she's like, no, there's tunnels because they're getting politicians and important people going underground to go to these brothels and all that. And we had to do a lot of reading, and then I found a book that proved the tunnels. It has someone wrote a book about it, and there's photos of it, and we were able to prove it. So that was pretty cool that we were able to go back and validate something that someone that's local to the town didn't even know or believe in. So we had a lot of those kinds of cases.
Yeah, there is so we've got 6 episodes that are in first season. It's out on Tubi right now. But if we were to take all the footage that Robert has spent capturing on stuff that we weren't able to validate because of whatever reason, I mean, some family members aren't alive any longer. There are people that moved. They use names that weren't their names. They were hiding from the law. And so there's a lot that isn't able to verify. But what I do love about it is that when something is picked up that is beyond, it's a sense of, and you guys, I use the word, it's just like, it's knowing. It's just a sense of knowing. And am I unique? Am I different? No, there's a lot of us that are mediums, and I feel that all of us can be a medium. And when I use the word medium, a medium is somebody that's able to touch the unseen world, to communicate, to receive the communications from those that are no longer physically here. And us that chose this, we do this with the passion of helping and healing. So I know there's a lot out there that choose this path, and it's more to, maybe they're going to make some serious money off of this, or they're going to manipulate it so they can, prey on the grieving, or there's so many out there that do that. And it's unfortunate, but I guess we have to have that balance in our world, right? If we do have really two things in this world, the love and fear, we do have to have that so that love ultimately wins, right? So in the end, I do hope that when I leave my own legacy and some younger person unknown to me at this time tells my legacy or tells my story, that they bring this forward and they're able to get into the archives of what we know as the internet. It'd probably be renamed by then, don't you think? Um, but and to go and research and go, oh wow, there are some pioneers that were out there. And wow, I wish that we would have understood a little bit more about that. So I think that's, you know, are you ready? I think we all are. I think we're all ready to understand that our voices do leave imprints, our physical um, lifestyles leave some sort of energy residue while they're here on this physical. And someone such as myself, I'm able to pick it up.
And
Love
then
that. So, Jennifer, in so talking about that gift and that ability, I know from knowing other mediums and other people that sometimes in childhood there's a lot that you're trying to unpack because you might be seeing things or experiencing things that other people in the family are not. And I would like to just go back because if there's young people watching or even other people, I'd like them to kind of know what it's like at an early age to have those gifts and how you're able to work that with your family and what you chose to tell people or maybe didn't tell people, and then how you kind of opened up and started presenting that gift. Because my sense is that in addition to that, being a phenomenal blessing, if you're very empathic and you can feel in and read into a lot of different things, there's probably a lot of things that you feel into that can be very emotional. And there has to be like a control switch where you're saying, okay, just as a person that has had that experience, I'd like to just, if you don't mind, just kind of talk about the upbringing, when you kind of tuned into all this, how it kind of came to you, and what it was like just growing up with that skill set.
Oh, well, thank you for asking about that. I always like to kind of preface this, nothing horrific happened in my life. I have what is very generic life when I grew up, which I feel is probably normal. Um, I come from a family that was in the military, so we moved quite a bit. I, when I first started noticing that, now that I'm able to go back now as an adult and go, oh, okay, that's when you had visitations. I've always had them. And I always thought everybody else had friends. And my friends never scared me. And that's the one thing that if you have any sort of visitations when you're sleeping or you're woken up or you walk in a room, they're not here to scare us. They will not scare us. We scare ourselves. And you open the door and you feel like there's a man sitting there, or there's grandpa that's been passed for 50 years sitting in your dad's chair. Of course, it's startling. But as someone as when I was younger, it was just like that's what it was. No one told me. I never had anyone that I can remember. Um, my parents, I didn't know if they had any abilities. I didn't. I'm the oldest of four children. So when I remember I have a younger brother than me, and I remember him coming to me and telling me that they won't shut up. They won't leave his room and they're being loud, and can he sleep in my room? And so that became kind of the normal. If they wouldn't leave us alone, like playing with our toys, or they kept wanting and we wanted to sleep, we would go to the other person's room. And I remember many a night sleeping on my brother's floor or him coming into my room. Um, as I grew up, and I'm going to kind of go into my teenage years because I am old enough to say that I'm pre-internet. I didn't have anywhere that I could go Google or to Snapchat or to go call someone and go, hey, what's going on? Or this is what I'm seeing or feeling. I just thought everybody in my school had this. And so when I became voiceful I would say probably in my early teens, 13-ish, is that I started thinking I could help people. And I use the word I started thinking, keyword thinking there. And I would tell friends like, I know you cheated, or I know you stole this. Or I know that whomever you're dating, he doesn't really like you. Oh, I thought I was helping them. Well, I grew very quickly to realize that I was very bossy, and I was told this many times. And I was like, but I'm just trying to help. And it didn't make sense that people didn't want to listen to this. So I also remember, and I also want to share again, that I was in the military as I grew up. And so I never lived in one area very long, usually about a year and a half. So I never had a group of friends I grew up with like most people do. So I could kind of burn them out, if I want to say, now that I look back and realize that, okay, well, and it also helped me. I'm very outspoken. I walk up to anybody and talk about anything. But the rest of my siblings aren't like me. They're very quiet. Um, I'd like to use the word they're more respectful, but that's me choosing that word. Um, so I want to fast forward that I'm in my teenage years, and I share this because we're very fortunate now with the internet, and there's also individuals such as myself that I'd love to talk to anybody that their child is going through this, and to let them know that they're normal, and to give them the platform of having the child explain what's going on. Tell me. Give your child a voice to say, who is it? What do they want to do? What are they telling you? Instead of saying, why are you telling me this? Or don't, or stop it. And I know many religions will, unfortunately, my opinion, is created that this is fearful and this is the devil and it's dark and it's haunting and it's paranormal. It's not. Now, if you want to believe it is, by all means, you're going to create that. And that's another complete conversation of how we can complete we can make our reality, our beliefs, our reality. So I guess in sense, if I believe my reality is that those that visit me are coming because they love me and they want to help me and play with me or show me things now. And I have such a dire desire for history and to help those that have gone missing or have had some sort of criminal act in their life so that I can help them or their families. That's what I've chosen to do with this. But as a young child, I had no idea what to do with it. So I relied on, who did I respect the most in my life? My mother. I still love my mother. I respect her deeply. My mother doesn't understand my work because it doesn't parlay with how she was brought up or her religion. And even as she watches our show, as my sister said to me, Jennifer, it's hard for us to separate you're Jennifer and you're also this other girl called a medium. It doesn't make sense to us. Now, I say that because I'm sure so many of you can understand. I'm always going to be Jennifer. It just happens to be I'm a medium. But I kind of share that because if any of you have been told you're not what you say you are, what your career is, or what your passion is, please stand true to who you are.
Yeah.
Those that are in our life sometimes are there just for us to rub against so we can sharpen who we are.
Call it I call it becoming the samurai sword, right? Because the samurai sword was the greatest, if you follow the samurai and you're familiar with samurai warriors, even the Mongols tried to go over there and got the snot kicked out of them, and the Mongols were pretty bad. But on the battlefield, the samurai sword was the ultimate weapon. And in order to become a samurai sword, they had to basically bang it with a hammer about 1,000,000 times and forge that steel. And when they finally banged it and forged it, it became the most lethal weapon on the battlefield. And so I often relate that to life. Sometimes we're just getting pounded, but it is making us sharper and stronger. I do want to just go back real quick and touch on what you said, because I feel like this is really important for other people that are mediums that have this ability. And I think it's really great for you as a mentor to talk about the experiences you had growing up and how you are able to integrate with people around you, having that skill set, but still be, kind of normal. And I'm very familiar with psychics, mediums, and this, and it's actually from a level of physics. It's actually just people that really resonate at a very high frequency. They're very tuned in to other dimensions, which technically we do all have that skill set. But in this day and age, we're dulled down quite a bit. So very few of us are tapped into it. But the fact that you are tuned into it and you have been from an early age is truly a blessing. And I don't want to get too much into the religious stuff because that's when I'm going to start uttering four-letter words, which we will not find conducive to this conversation. But their whole thing was to try to be very controlling for the most part, and they've said that crystals are evil and Reiki's evil, and so usually knowing that there's a lot of demoniac people that have taken over religious groups, it doesn't that's never been really much that steered me from anything. But in this day and age, because I'm into a lot of technology and a lot of other things, I'm very used to getting that where you're crazy, whatever. I mean, which is fine. In the world we live in, perhaps I am, but in the reality of what's really out there, I'm really not. It's everybody else. And it's okay, man. I love everybody. I don't really get into that. I kind of let everybody just do their thing, and I love them and appreciate them for whatever they're able to absorb, or whatever their level of understanding is. And as you get older, you understand that some people are tuned in, some people are not. My mother's probably very much like a lot of moms, where she thinks I'm completely crazy, and I'm good with that, and I still love her dearly. And it's okay. It's in the world that we're living in, where they try to make everything divisive. I try to embrace everybody and unconditionally love them and accept them for who they are, and really not get too far into that. So I really do appreciate that from what you're saying, and I feel that this information for young kids, because I feel it in young age, like you said, if the parents aren't tuned into this and the kids really have this ability and they're trying to bring it out, we want to encourage them to know that that is a true gift, and that there's other people that have walked that path and understand it. And so from that perspective, I'm very grateful for you to share that. I do have to circle back though, and Robert, this story in Florida is absolutely amazing. I'm very dialed in also with Indigenous people and their skill sets, and they were very highly intelligent. They were very intuitive. They tapped into ancestral memory. They had maybe a lot of things that we would call sort of mystic powers or mystic abilities, but this walking through this vortex and then walking through the woods, there's a lot of stories. I don't know if you're familiar with a gentleman named Dr. Michael Salla, but he's got a channel on YouTube also, and he gets into a lot of different subjects. But there's a lot of mystical places in Florida, and Ponce de Leon and the Fountain of Youth, and he's got many people that have found caverns or caves that go underground, that go into some very ancient areas, which, when you start telling me about that, and with a lot of these indigenous people, it ties into a lot of stories that have been told about these other areas in Florida. And I find that very fascinating, quite frankly. And when you're talking about that story, and the way that whole thing happens, where you kind of hit the vortex and they're leading you there, when you get to that pinnacle moment where they're talking to you, I kind of feel like for you, that's like, wow, this is like from the heart of your soul. This is where I'm meant to be. And this is a very important part of me right now on this path that I'm on, taking it to the next level. So like, there's a very deep emotional feeling that comes from that story. And it's hard, I'm sure, to tell it without, getting tearful, because it's so ecstatic and so deep at such a core level. And that Robert's there with his camera, and you guys are filming this and going through that. I mean, I can't wait to go chase down that YouTube video. For anybody that's watching the videos today, all of Robert and all of Jennifer's information will be down below in the description. So I'll get that information, because if you're like me, it's like, bang, as soon as I got this video, I want to go watch that. And so, Robert, I've done a lot of talking. Jennifer, a beautiful story, and thank you for what I would just say amazing character development and kind of bringing this whole thing through. But Robert, I'd like to throw it back to you for any feedback or to maybe pick up on, the series and more of the information about what we've previously talked about.
Mhm. The series you can find after we're done on Tubi. All anyone has to do is type in past but present on Tubi and they can watch everything. We also have our website, pastbutpresent.com, where you can rent it there too. But I know that Tubi is a little bit easier for people to get a hold of nowadays. But my big takeaway from this, my whole experience, because there's been a path for me growing up as an atheist teen all the way up until my 40s, not believing in life after death, not believing in anything. I just figured, when you die, and that's it, you black out. And that always created a lot of anxiety for myself, and it's not a good way to live, not to have any kind of hope. But then I started to get more interested in reading books and watching documentaries and films about this kind of subject matter, and that's what led me to meet a mutual friend of ours, Sandra Champlain from it's called the We Don't Die radio show, and she's on Coast to Coast AM as well. So she has this network called We Don't Die, and she did these live conferences where we met Jen in 2019, and I went into that still not a full believer, but I was basically the cameraman filming everything for my friend Sandra, and just trying to get a grasp of what everything was. And I was so fascinated by all the different speakers and presenters that they had there
We
that
had an
week.
ice storm. We're having one here, and it's messing around a little bit with our internet. So I apologize because I got bumped off for just a minute or two. And I do want to close this out. I do want to talk about hibernation, but I was right in the heart of listening to this, and I got to cycle back and just ask a few more questions because, Robert, you were talking about yourself kind of getting introduced to some of this with the mediums and life after death and all this, and as a camera person. But I'd be really interested to hear like you continue on and kind of say, Robert 2019 when I'm getting introduced to this, and Robert 2025, and kind of how you've evolved and where your whole concept of this reality is right now, and how that's changed you as a filmmaker and as like a third person that's witnessing and watching all this happen. You've got some amazing experiences, and I like that perspective of I'll believe it when I see it. And I feel like you've seen quite a bit now. So I'd kind of like to see how that's changed you.
Definitely. Before our break, I was explaining that I grew up as an atheist and didn't believe any of this kind of stuff. But I became interested, I started reading and watching documentaries, and then going to conferences to help my friend film other mediums give demonstrations. And then there was courses that were available, so I was able to sit in the courses filming, but take in the information and learn. And over time, I feel like because I've opened up myself to the spirit world, I've been able to make my own connections as well. I've learned how to do it, and that proves to me that we all have it. Someone like Jennifer has got more ability. We got different levels of the ability, but I think someone that practices it and recognizes that they have it can develop over time. And Jennifer's been developing for I don't know how many years, but I have only been developing my mediumship for, let's say, 3 years, and I've already had incredible experiences that prove to me 100% that the life after death is real, because there is no way these things could have happened. And I'll tell a quick story. We had an event here in Miami that I organized so that I could film from one of my upcoming documentaries, which is called Evidence of the Afterlife. And it's about two mediums from the UK, Philip Dykes and Carrie McLeod. And they go around the world and they teach students how to develop their mediumship. And there was several incidences where I was sitting behind the camera where I was kind of just daydreaming because, you know, it's a long day, and they have two students sitting in front of me and they're doing practice readings on each other in 10-minute sessions. And I remember specifically these two ladies, and the one woman was just, she was not getting any good answers. The other lady was saying, no, no, that's not my grandma, or that's not my dad, that's not. And I'm sitting there seeing pictures in my mind, clairvoyant images, and I felt it'd be unprofessional to say to the lady, you know, was your dad this or that? But something compelled me to do it anyways. At the end of the day, I walked up to her after their mediumship reading was over. Later, like 5 hours later, I went up to her and I said, "Was your dad a sport fisherman?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, because I saw him in my mind holding up a fish with his buddies. They all had beards and they had their Budweiser beer cans." And she's like, "Yeah, that's totally my dad." So this spirit from the other side saw the way in to give the message to her that, yeah, he's there and he was with us. Because the other medium wasn't getting it for some reason, whatever it may be. She was distracted or um, but I was getting it because, and I think it was because I let my mind kind of go into a drift, like a little daydream state. So I've been kind of paying more attention to that. And in Miami, we had the event, and one of the participants got ill the night before, and she couldn't make it to the second day of classes. And I'm in there with the camera, and we have an uneven amount of participants that could pair off and do readings on each other. So I'd volunteered to sit with a random person. Um, and I sat with this woman, and it was the images that were coming to my mind because I just let all my thoughts go. The images that were coming to my mind, I would just say it, and they were very detailed, like almost like a daydream. And she just started saying yes to everything, yes to everything. And I was literally shown the inside of her grandfather's home, and I was able to take her from room to room, describe the brick wall, the shaggy white carpet, the lamp over the wood table that looks like a Pizza Hut lamp. And she's saying, yes, yes. And and I was feeling sensations of cold and seeing snow, and then I knew they were in Central Park throwing snowballs at each other, and it was wild. And by the end of it, we were both in tears, and there was all this evidence is great because you get the evidence so that the recipient knows their loved one is there. But what is the message at the end? There's got to be a message, and then the message for her was because at the end I saw grandma appear over my shoulder, like in my mind, and in all these images, grandma was not there. It was just the grandfather and her. And I said, your grandmother must have, passed away at an early age because he's not in any, she's not in any of these memories. And she's like, yeah. I said, well, that's the message. She's here. They're there together now, and she's here with you. And yeah, it was very powerful, and I'll never forget it. And all those images I remember as if they were memories from yesterday. It was so clear. And I I don't try to practice mediumship. That's not, I do the video stuff, but I just found it so compelling that that this was able to happen through me, and it's proof that it could happen to anybody.
Love that. So we've got David,
So that's about
or
it.
Robert, the filmmaker, and we have Robert, like the student, empath, like medium, and like watching those both develop simultaneously through your work is actually really interesting because when you started talking about that, I could tell your demeanor changed, from being a serious producer filmmaker to a person that's like, wow, this has really like been a real like evolving experience. I think that's amazing where you can use that skill set and those skills and tools as a filmmaker to introspectively look into something and then sort of say, well, there is something here, and then be open enough to it to like, have it actually be something that you're dialed into now. I think that's absolutely phenomenal. Um, and I was just wondering, Jennifer, if that through the time that you've known Robert, watching this transition with him being introduced to this, I'm not sure how long that's been, but you as a person that's very dialed into this, watching this evolution, for me personally, Robert, this is where the work is going, right? This is the goal of these series, is to put people in that position where they're watching Jennifer do this. She's picking up on stuff from people she doesn't know anything about, and then people are starting to figure out this is possible and opening them up to that idea where everybody starts tuning into this and really seeing that there's really something to this and we should be open to it and really start tapping into it. I feel like with the work that you're doing, and I would love to watch these series. Like, I can't wait because I love that. But I feel like there's a bigger message that's being put out there. And I feel like you personally are someone who's actually experienced that. And so the work that you're doing, although it is really cool TV, I think there's a much bigger, broader message that's being put out there.
What if the message was that that we start with our children, even though we are adults gathered here today, and with David having these incredible ideas that are taking place in 2 weeks. And Sean, you being able to ask those rich questions for both Robert and I, and Robert behind the camera. But what if it has to do with our children, the future, that we're just simply here doing the hard work? We got boots on the ground right now. That's who we are. But if this was to be in our schools or to be common talk around the table, that is what I feel. That would be what would make my heart sing, my heart and my soul know it's done its job.
Yeah. I mean, that's why, even earlier, bringing it back to your childhood, I feel like when the kids are getting this intuitive things, if we as adults can embrace that and support them and encourage them and keep them in that spirit and in that moment, and help them grow that blessing that's been given to them, and understand that these beautiful, amazing children with these gifts, they all have it, but it's up to us to provide the nutrients, the water, the soil, and the environment to help them grow and grow into that. Because Jennifer, that's such a beautiful comment, and I really believe that that's really where it all goes. And I'm hoping that with the series, there's a lot of younger people that are able to see that and pick up on that message. And hopefully for the adults that are, probably watching a lot of this, to know that, hey, if my grandchild or my niece or, my neighbor's, my girlfriend's little child, and she's talking about this, if I can be the one to dial her in and let her know that, yes, this is 100% possible, and you are so blessed to have a child with these gifts. Everybody there, you might not be your child, but you might know somebody within the family that you're getting this download of information from, and hopefully you can help go out there and help these little people, become, these great, sort of mystics that are out there and helping the world and tapping in with empathy and unconditional love and all the things that go with that. It's truly a blessing and a gift, and I'm so grateful to have you both on the show today. David is amazing, and I love David, and David is also, from a very soul level, is very passionate about his mission and what he's trying to do, as what he would refer to as a soul contract to help, make the world a better place. And so, with what David's doing, and Jennifer and Robert, I believe, like, if you tap into, his message, and like you said, just listen to what he says and then pull away and just go to your heart and feel where, you might find a place to be able to participate in that. That's really where David's coming from. I've spent enough time with him now to know that. But I do believe that this conversation is one that needs to go on, and we need to have future conversations, maybe not today, of course, because of our time limit that we might have here, but I would really like to follow up with you and your work. And Jennifer, in addition to doing the filming, do you actually provide like consulting services, or is there something that you do also in addition to the filming, that's part of your profession as being a medium?
I think the filming is what I would call my dessert because I find it to be so fun. It's like I get to enjoy, if I want to say the dessert. I also, yes, I do one-on-one readings. I do groups, events. My primary focus right now is helping to find those that have gone missing, that working with the families to bring some sort of closure, peace, comfort, but also those that have been involved in some sort of true crime that, or, questionable death. So I'm in a very delicate balance right now of finding out exactly. Robert and I also have a couple other projects in the mix that I just going to push for a hot second here is,
Please
of
do.
course, Past but Present season 2. And we also have a documentary called Signs of Healing. And we'll talk more about that on another time, but it has to do with parents talking about how their children that have passed before them are still communicating from the other side. So that is truly where my focus is giving those a voice. If it's David and his passion, Sean, your passion, or Robert, and finding out what's the highest good, what's the best, instead of focusing on, the material things that sometimes we all feel we should. But I'm very grateful and thrilled that I got to meet you, Sean and David. I just find that I could probably listen to both of you for hours to understand a little bit more about what your mission is, your soul contracts, your purpose. And I give so much gratitude. Thank you. I can be reached at my website, which is my name, jenniferbrazier.com. Thank you.
And like I said, anybody watching that, I'll have that down below. Robert, I'd like to finish up with you and then we'll give David the final thing. But are there going to be any follow-up series or any follow-up videos with those indigenous folks and anything that follows up from your trip to Florida? Because gosh, that's a story you just don't want to end. I just want to know, like, is there any plans to go back down there, or where's that at right now?
We do have some plans to go back to that region, so that might be this year and be part of season 2 because we love it down there and there's so many stories to be told. I mean, all we have to do is drive another 30 miles in either direction and there's going to be a whole nother episode. We could, when we get to a location, we can film a whole half an hour episode from just one area, and it will be so different from something else that happened, a few miles away. Uh, we had such a fascinating time in St. Augustine with all the with the spirits of the people who settled that area. Like you were talking about the Fountain of Youth before. That's all in one of our episodes in St. Augustine, and yeah, so we do plan on going back to Florida. I'm here in Miami, so I'm close by, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff here too in Miami. Um, but when Jen was here in Miami, we got a lot of different stories that I wasn't expecting, and that will come out in season 2.
Super exciting.
To give you a teaser, we got to talk to Al Capone. So
Wow. Wow.
Yes, Al Capone.
yeah, so
Capone.
it's been an adventure. It's been
God,
fun.
that is an adventure. Wow, wow, wow. Well, I got to make sure I've got these links. I want to be able to get onto these, watching these episodes. Robert, amazing work, and Jennifer, amazing skills. And I'm so happy that you're making yourself available for healing and for going. I mean before David, I'm going to throw it to you for just a second, but I can tell that there's a lot of gratitude that comes with doing that. But I could also tell that there's got to be a lot of it's got to be deeply emotional. Like you have to be very strong to go into these places and go into these situations that you can feel into and then be there with the family and have to translate that. That's got to be, and like that takes a lot of fortitude, a lot of strength, and a lot of heart and soul. And thank you for the work that you're doing there, because that is not for the weak and the meek. And I truly am grateful for you doing that. That's absolutely a blessing from God Himself. And so, David, sir, I have a tendency to talk a lot, but sir, I'm going to throw it down to you and then wrap up with the Hibernation Festival, and we'll call this an episode.
Great, Sean. Yeah, I just want to just say to Robert and also Jennifer that you both mentioned so many things. I have like a whole list. I didn't write them down, obviously, but as you were talking, there's so many associated topics, like rabbit holes, wormholes, or whatever. I mean, it's spaghetti. It's endless. It's a continual, like, never-ending story, which is wonderful. It all does end happily ever after, which is nice because we can actually make that happen, like through the animation that Robert does, and how we can bring history into our present moment and really ignite people's empowerment and their enlightenment and all of the things that we talk about. And even in this Hibernation Festival, we're going to be presenting, Jennifer, some for you specifically, but also for Robert. He'll be covering, hopefully, doing some type of gathering of facts and interviews, maybe podcasts. So, but Jennifer, let me ask you a question before, and I know we need to end, so it's either yes or no answer. Do you know Dr. Gary Swartz and Dr. Mark Pitstick with
Yes, I do.
Soul Phone? Okay.
Yes, I know both
All
of
right.
them. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, this is very important piece because just by mentioning that already, like telepathically, it's all like boom. It's for me. It's that to me is because that work is about actually communicating and not breaking, but removing the veil or going through the fog on the other side and actually having a pathway that we can communicate. It is a yes or no switchboard, the soul switch. So when we communicate, we need to be very specific in the question. And that's what Sean and I, from day one with this whole thing about these episodes, we need to try to come to that point, whatever it is. Like you even said, Jennifer, if you meet some entity or some person that's like, I don't know, like scary. I mean, you're not going to get scared and run away. What you do is you stay still, and then you can connect with their center. Like you said, in the center of everything is that divine life. Whatever it is, it could be the most horrible beast, like Beauty and the Beast. Your beauty, and you come up with a beast. You're not going to try to kill the beast or anything. You're gonna comfort and transform that. And so that's the healing that Sean was mentioning with the work that you're doing, and how we can capture and basically bring all of that into the hub, into a center of intelligence, of total intelligence, and have that hub be anonymous. So it's not like I own the hub. I am an inventor. I work with Dr. Gary Swartz and all of everybody. I work with everybody. I don't have any, but I don't have like contracts. I don't do NDAs. I'm not interested in patenting. I don't care about top copyright trademark. I actually enjoy when people copy me, and what have you. It's a little bit on the kind of the extreme opposite of what like an attorney would advise you to do with terms and conditions. We only have 3 terms and conditions. Do no evil. That is it. So when you enter into the World Impact News Network, it's a whole platform. It's got everything. It's the most sophisticated applicativo that I know that mankind or womankind or any kind has ever imagined. That's the level. And how that comes down, and this is the kind of in closing as far as technology and the work that you're doing, and also Robert, the sophistication that we have now with cameras in infrared and sonar, all built into these localized what are called CubeSats. They're the size of a shoebox. These satellites are local orbital they don't go out of orbit. They go above the atmosphere where the clouds are with drones. And these drones have no batteries. It's a drone. It's one single drone. It's not like an army of drones. It's a communication matrix. And when we flip the switch on, we can go up to 400 kilometers, but we keep it very small, only 40 kilometers, to keep that signal like pure and strong. And so in that, we can photograph, like if you come or if you do any intervention here with at some point in time with your contacts already with Sonia and Brazil and all and Robert, it's a no-brainer. I mean, you're going to be here if you want to be. And we are inviting you. when you come here and you're going to do a seance or you're going to experience phenomenon, we're going to record everything, not just behind the lens of Robert. But Robert, it would be there as we want redundancy systems. We don't want just the computer telling us what happened. We can program the computer to do that. We need that human evidence. Like Robert was saying, the evidential mediumship is really, it's not just about mediumship, because sometimes you can be intelligent. Like even CIA, FBI, we had a person on the show who's a whistleblower for those organizations, like a James Bond type of person. And he was explaining that they can make up whatever reality they want to make up whenever. So if you're going to say you're a medium, you can actually create those stories, and the people listening are going to say, yeah, you're right. I stole, I did everything, and they might not have done any of it. You know what I'm saying? That's the power of what we have right now with AI systems. And we won't get down during the week of the Hibernation Festival. We're going to have a lot of people and some really interesting, and I'm just coming to find out some of these people. And I've been into this now for over 10 years. I've been into quantum physics and as a quantum inventor and a channeler. That's what I do. People say, how are you a quantum physicist? I thought you were a chef. I thought you cooked food. And that's the truth. I'm a chef. That's what I do. But that's the day job. At nighttime, I dream. I'm like Robert. I'm a dreamer. And also you, Jennifer. And I'll let that be the kind of the closing. Let's all keep dreaming. Let's do it together. Are you ready?
I love that.
I like that.
Okay.
We are going to circle back on the next episode, and we're going to talk about Are You Ready? And we're going to finish that because it seems to me that Are You Ready? The way you started this off, Jennifer, and when you guys went and saw that on the banner, it seems to me like the mission is, you've taken action and you're living the mission of Are You Ready? So on the next podcast, we're going to pick up from there and get into your work. Thank you so much again for coming on. You guys are amazing, Robert. I loved all your interaction with your story, with what you're doing. I love your work. As a person that's always looking for finding really cutting edge content and stuff that's really interesting, you have to have a passion for it, right? So I can tell that you do, and you've now become what you're actually promoting. And Jennifer, without you, to be that person, that gift that, is presenting that. Thank you so much once again for that as well. And so we'll wrap up today. Robert, I did get those links off the chat. So I'm grabbing those. I'll put those down. So thanks for throwing those up there. And thanks again, everybody here, for your time today. And I'll get the links out to this podcast as soon as I get it up, probably within the next 24 to 48 hours. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, David. I appreciate all of you and your time. Thank you, Robert.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Ciao.
everyone. Okay, ciao.
Ciao.
Bye.